You all sense that this kind of an enterprise or exercise or pursuit is that there is no omega to this alpha. It goes on and on and on and on, and brings up. You guys are really you're not getting tired standing up there, are you?
Oh no.
Okay. You said, somebody said function. Marvin used the term program.
Mm-hmm.
Function. What is the what do you think of when somebody says function?
What do I think of? Well, I think of more the pragmatic reasons why you need to, why something is
Okay,
built.
pragmatic. What's your contribution?
Maybe usefulness or
Usefulness. Anybody else want to dive in? There's plenty of room.
Service-based?
Service, okay. Is architecture an art form?
yes.
I mean, that really opens Pandora's box, because there are many architects, not the good ones, who maintain that architecture is not an art form because it has toilets in it. And toilets, too, can be beautiful.
Yep.
Anybody else? What's the purpose of a church? Five, four, three, two, one.
A lot of reasons.
Represent the religion.
Oh,
To
man.
create a sense of awe.
Don't stumble over it. Go right back to the essence. What's the purpose of a church?
A place to worship God.
Place
To inspire people.
Inspire people. Have you ever held a handful of inspiration? What color is inspiration?
Rainbow.
Okay. What does it weigh per ounce? One can submit that what you have done is very pragmatic. If you accept the thesis that any art form has only one purpose, and that is to evoke an emotional response. And if you're greedy and suffer from avarice and you're an architect, then you want it to be a strong, memorable emotional response. That's its purpose. That's its function. Everything else is pragmatic. Marvin mentions music. You're a mechanical engineer. Did you ever use mathematics?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I saw an exhibit once where Bartok, who I find strident and very unappealing, Beethoven, and Kiss. You know how fond I am of Kiss, right? All of it, all of music that is not purposely strident can be reduced to mathematics. Albert Einstein maintained that he was a lousy mathematician. And there's that place at Princeton that's got 8 blackboards with continuous equations on them. There is no confrontation, there's no conflict, there's no antagonism between the pragmatic, if you understand it, never overlook the obvious. What could be more pragmatic than 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato, 4? All of this stuff has to do with composition that deals with logic, order, rigor, cogency, wit, and spirit. So you've got the first-class vehicle, which will never end and is a source of irritation and can be nitpicked forever. I'll give you an example. None of these drawings, not to be taken personally, right? We're going to pick it up where we left it off 8 years ago. Okay. None of these drawings should be on a white background, because the model works better. The black is, let's go. How about constants and variables? Has that ever come up?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. How about variables with absolutes?
No.
Okay. We'll give it the old.
You mean constant variable?
Well, no, the constant.
Constant, yeah.
The constant variable, the variable, you know.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Okay. Here's an absolute. And absolutes are not evil. They just close things down. Look at these 2 beautiful noses. Actually, yours is prettier than mine.
I'm not vegan.
Okay. The bouncing ball, minimum, maximum distance, and you can striate this, can't you? You can plug in mathematics into a grid, just the way you. Variable starts here. Now notice the way Marvin is responding, because this is a good example of absolutes. These are variables from minimum to maximum let's say someplace in equilibrium, to maximum to minimum in the distance, and then who got magic out of this? Any of you been to the Sistine Chapel? Someday God and Adam are going to get together, and the tension is with this, so that the absent, it's never consummated.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you've been there. And then beep. Now it's gone. If this is A and that's B, the B is gone. That's what comes out of this kind of a rigor. And if you don't have rigor in architecture, you can't communicate. What I got a lot of trouble with this business called formalism, probably because I don't know what the hell it means. Formal ordering system. What is the formal ordering system that none of us has thought about that's been prevalent up to this point? Intuitively, instinctively, naturally. The English language, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's it. And that is a formal ordering system. And you can do good things with it, or you can not do naughty things with it, or evil things. Well, there is the implicit proposition of adding or of responding to a requirement, and assuming that this is not a requirement, you continue the ordering system, or the presence of order that's manifested itself in some form that can communicate through in this instance through the optical system, and then can register and relate to either control or the absence of it. Your clips are black. Now, I don't know whether everybody uses them or not. Maybe was this a requirement?
Yeah,
Okay, so you carried it all the way over
right.
to the clip. Is black an absolute?
No, it's
It isn't?
not. No. Because black can represent either black just on the surface, or black can represent a volume.
I didn't
Black,
ask how it was applied here. I ask is black an absolute?
in general.
It's not even considered a color by those who manipulate color, vis-a-vis Joseph Albers and the others. Is black an absolute? And I would submit to you it is. And that white is an absolute. And that the varying degrees that exist between black and white are the grays. And that the game is played between, if you will, dark black and light black, if you want to use that, or light white and dark white, and then Shazam, that puts you right back, so that you're dealing with dark gray or light gray. So you've married black and white, and now instead of having two absolutes, you have the palette or the substance which you can vary to your heart's content. Never touch the nose. So order is, who was it? Louis Kahn, who was a mystic and very difficult to understand, even if you were around him for a long time. Kahn had reduced his equation to something simply called order is. And why not? If you've lined up your drawings, you control the clip. That doesn't mean, well, I think you're a little bit off on the center line there with your bottom transparency. The well selected is a transparency. These are subtleties. You think, my God, this guy must be out of his mind, or I should be receiving therapy someplace. But when you really get into it, every act that goes into a package can be controlled. And if you're enamored or intrigued by the work of Peter Eisman, juxtapose it to Daniel Libeskind, and you will see a huge difference, because Libeskind doesn't have a clue as to what the hell he's doing. It all roars out of the right brain, and it's never submitted for refinement in the left. And everything starts in the right brain. Because if that weren't true, we can feed our intentions into a computer, get it to go turpucket, and we're on permanent holiday. The biggest gift you have is the wit, the right brain. But if you don't do anything with it, with the rigor, it never gets a chance to be sufficiently coherent so it can be communicated. This is first year?
Those sorts of things.
First semester.
First semester.
Wow. It's a pretty good chunk to chew on your first semester, isn't it?
Yeah, sure is.
Okay. You will, it sounds paternal as hell, you will be the beneficiary of it for a long time. I'm going to let the dog die on its own, so I won't mention it again, but as you look at your drawings up there, and the base is black, which is intended to present itself as the neutral, right?
Right.
This is non-participatory.
Right.
Except to illustrate, and you might as well, the structural reality that the plexiglass is received by it. Was there a proportional control over how deep the plexiglass went in terms of the spanning distance between the planes?
Specified.
What?
That
That was just specified.
Okay.
That was an
To the
absolute-
design of the problem.
All right. And what are the proportions?
The proportions are, they're actually the same as some of the proportions on the big idea.
Okay.
But it's 3 inches between. Each bay is 3 inches wide. You have a 1/4 inch thick plexiglass, and then I forgot what it is, 1.5 or
So
1
1.5
1/4.
inches.
1.5.
It's enough to make you proud, isn't it? Huh? I'll also say for the last time, these are no-win situations. If somebody really wants to get into them and look for the blemish, they're there. But then that should be encouraging, you see, because there's always something to do next Monday morning. The relationship of, were you permitted? No. Did you extract a set of primary proportions? A constant, you didn't have anything to do with it, right? The height?
Right, the height, yes.
The base is given.
Base is given, all the dimensions.
This is given. The playing field, the X's and O's take place within not those constraints, but simply those limits. Because limits are not negative, constraints have certain pejorative overtone. Now, did you look at these proportions and begin to extract for yourself, and I'm using this one simply because it's out of reach, that there is one of these units, or one of these dimensions that can fit in. There's a second dimension here. There's a third dimension here. There's a fourth dimension here. It would be a variegated set of Legos. Is that how this came about?
Not necessarily. For
Okay.
some people it may, but it wasn't a requirement.
Good point. Did anybody do it that way? No, I'm looking for a distillation of how you get the minimum inventory of parts from which you can extract a maximum, almost an infinite number of variations. I mean, it's going to materialize as some physical matter anyhow. I don't think you do this. First semester of their first year? No, you don't. This is a recapitulation and a review, in a project review. How about does anybody know the work of Mondrian or the de Stijl movement? Okay, do you remember all of the Marvey things? And it's not white, but it's warm white, it's cool white, and it's not really black, and then there are the primary colors. And this was part of a movement which I think would take on sect status in this country, because there was a mathematical formula that was given to the selection of color, so that something that is a 2-inch by 2-inch red had a mathematical value. So the game was to allow this thing to explore and range to its heart's content, and not to be impeded as it was producing the composition. But then the left brain got in, and it took over the process of refinement. And that was where this one question goes, and it's for all of you. How do you get the inventory with which you produce three-dimensionally, compositionally, the variables? You're doing it. This little hinky-do right here has a presence as a square. No major, no minor. It's a static, and that's not a negative comment. It's a static unit, and it fits within your application of force lines. And those are force lines. When we were talking about Notre Dame, the guys who built those cathedrals had one long length of rope with a bunch of knots in it, right? And it was all proportional. It was all mathematical, but not where they had the calculators out, because Texas Instruments wasn't around. It's here, it's here, it's here, and it ain't there. And it becomes a reference. And when it leaves 1, 2, 3, we're using the same device, iron. These begin to establish a visual tension between them two-dimensionally, so they're a foil for the three-dimensional. And yet, when they don't appear at this point, or at the end, then they're sorely missed. If you want to do it, 0 is an absolute. If I remember correctly, mathematics really came about when somebody invented 0, because the Roman numerals can't hack that stuff. And the consistency. How much emphasis was there on consistency?
Pretty big, actually.
God, why don't they leave me alone?
Yeah.
I didn't come here for this. Look at Peter Eisenman's early houses. You know the numbers better than I do. 1 wouldn't be 2, 3, 4, 5. Would
1, 2, 3.
Which would be the best selection? Would it be 1, or go to 2, 3 to 4 to 5? Not to 10 certainly, because that's another game.
What are you asking?
For the evolution, the insertion of more coherent, discernible complexity, not complication, but decipherable, decodable complexity. These aren't going to get built either, but they're real.
Yeah.
No, they're
I don't
built.
think- I
They're
don't
just
think
not at full scale.